Hello, everybody. I'm Kipp Snow, Director of the Transportation Distribution Logistics Institute at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Hey, everybody. Mike Singer, Community Manager, Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. Welcome to Two Guys Talking Ship Podcast, episode 61. You know, we should have started off with the coming out of the joke and just laughing and just like hit play and just started out laughing.
Now everybody's wondering what was happening, and so the reference was Uncle Buck. For if you watch the old movie, and Uncle Buck wakes up in a stupor in the middle of the night, coughing and hacking because he's got to go take care of the kids. That's Mike's slightly under the weather here. That's So we'll get through it though.
and then everybody was laughing at the reference.
Yeah. Research department it was in there hooting and hollering. So, how are you, sir? You had a trip this past weekend, didn't you?
Yeah. Went down to South Carolina to see my nephew get married. So yeah, that was awesome. It's kind of like the only main part of my mom's family that's left. Mom and dad are gone, and my grandparents are gone on my mom's side. So it's what's her brother's family that lives down there, and his kids. So we don't get to see them a lot. So it was really cool to get down there and get some family time and go to the wedding and hang out the next day. And yeah,
nice.
It's always good to go on a little trip. And I wasn't feeling great during it, so that, but I didn't want to miss it. So
sure, it's always nice to catch up with family too. So
yeah, and so here I am going on tomorrow. It'll be a week with this stuff. So anyway, enough of that. How about you?
I was fine. We it was catch up on stuff weekend and trying to get ready for Thanksgiving and those types of things coming up. So
yeah,
all good.
You want to talk about your funny anecdote on the way home?
No.
And no. Okay.
No, I'm not gonna.
I was just talking about the speed and what you were. Okay. Anyway,
the speed. Oh, that I'm having to drive 10 miles under the speed limit the whole way home? No.
Right. And the key point that you were looking forward to getting home to doing the podcast.
Oh yes, I was 100%. I was 100% looking forward to coming home and being on the recording this. No, that is correct. Yes.
Like, dang it, you people! I'm trying to get home to something I enjoy. Get out of my way.
That's right.
Wait a minute. We enjoy this? We're admitting that on the air.
I enjoy it. I don't know about you, but
oh.
I even had the podcast theme song on my playlist.
Ooh. Okay. One for Kipp. All right.
Okay. There we go.
I don't have that. All right. You got me. Hey, if you're new to the podcast or new to the channel, give us a like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell to be alerted to new podcasts as they come available.
All right. Why don't we get into some shipping updates?
Yep. Let's do it. So we have a bunch of weeks on here. I'm just going to roll through them real quick. So back to like October 11th. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this in here just because it helps a trend, even though there's some blips in there. So Let's just round it up. So 3,400 transactions per week, 3,800 transactions per week, 34, 32, 28, which gave us a little scare, right? What was that? 2 weeks ago. Last week was almost 3,600 transactions per day, with a holiday with one day almost, with one day over 4,000.
Oh, wow.
Exciting.
I wonder if that was it was some kind of a backlog catch up from that.
Well, just Veterans Day, they closed for Veterans Day.
Right? Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then so far through 4 days this week, 3,697. So almost 3,700 per day.
Wow.
So that's nice.
Make sure you catch the website tomorrow.
Right. I have a friend of mine who is doing a spreadsheet and tracking it every day and totaling it up and
Excellent.
emailing it. Yes.
That is awesome.
That
Excellent.
is our friend Norm.
Oh, thanks, Norm.
That
Appreciate
that
that.
made our caddies,
Mm-hmm.
our toolbox caddies, and sent me a timer because I was joking around about how long has it been since the last podcast? We should have like a like a timer to just slap, all right, that's been wait. So it's over there on the shelf and I still haven't used it. Sorry, Norm.
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
yeah, but he's been tracking that for us, so it's a big huge
Nice.
help. Because
Appreciate
now
that.
I don't have to think about it. Now I don't have to worry about it. And he's always taking care of that for us. So that's awesome.
You got some kind of breaking news, don't you, with in the port?
Yeah. So I received a tip that some activity might be happening with the W Sapphire ship that exploded. Remember, it's been down in the Southern Bay while they try to figure out what to do with it. At the last port meeting you and I went to, which we're going to be going maybe to tomorrow, they had said they were thinking about bringing it back up to Baltimore, and then you have to offload it, but it's already exported cargo and everything that goes into, and then if you were to put it back on land, then how does that work with the paperwork, and just awfully complicated. So there's another ship down there,
Okay.
and what I think is going to happen is that they're going to basically transload from one ship to the other right down there off of Cove Point.
Wow.
Supposedly, I think the story is that it's not coming to Baltimore.
So they're going to try to do that swap out in the water.
Remember kind of when the port opened and the coal ships were coming out light, like, I don't know, 42, 43 feet or something, and they go down to Annapolis and they run barges down there, and then they were bucketing the coal onto the ships to fill them up more. So I haven't seen any barges or tugs down there. And if it's just a crane on a barge, it's not going to show up on AIS, most likely.
Gotcha.
But the tug that pushes the crane and the barge would, and I haven't seen anything yet. But there are a couple of service boats down there around the two ships, which are about 3,000 feet apart.
Interesting.
I would imagine that they would get them closer so you could just bucket from one to the other, but I don't know what kind of forces go into putting a barge between two ships in open water. And
right. They may be anchored, just waiting for all of that to come together. I didn't think about that part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to start doing that soon, down in the Southern Bay. So we don't have any eyes down there necessarily. So we'll have to see what we can figure out.
See if what we can figure out. Sure.
Yeah. So that's some interesting news.
You also sent over some pretty amazing pictures of the Key Bridge demolition.
Yeah, we just was taking some shots from the live stream camera, the Streamtime live stream camera that we helped set up. So this is so it's funny because MDTA, and I guess it's based on the signage on the Beltway, calls the Key Bridge north and south. Now, do you agree with this? Nobody in Baltimore thinks about the Key Bridge as north and south. Everybody thinks about it as east and west.
Correct.
So I don't know how that's just my funny little irony thing that I'm like, how did you guys wind up with that naming?
So some of that has to do, yeah. Well, some of that has to do with the naming and the funding of the interstate as it is. So in order for it to be an interstate, it has to have certain qualifications, and the direction of it is identified based on the overall direction of the road. Now, in a beltway situation where you've got a circle,
Right.
that's a little more challenging. So that's the 695 designator is an offshoot of 95, and so it aligns with I-95. And then you have numbering.
Three digits are loops and spurs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then what is it? North and south are odd numbers, and east and west are
even numbers.
Even numbers.
Yes, sir.
And so because 95 is a north and south interstate,
you passed the Eisenhower interstate system test. Good for you, Kipp.
Yeah. Yeah, we
talk about people that don't know that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's some of the stuff that we cover in some of our classes, to be able to explain, hey, look, there's a rhyme and reason behind why there's a numbering system with our interstates. So
pretty interesting that they came up with that, you know. Wonder how many meetings that took.
I know, right?
Right. But anyway, so this is what they would call the South Side, also known to everybody else in Baltimore as the West Side. And they're, you know, so you can see a couple of these spans are missing beams, right? So remember when we saw they put the little wooden railing up on top of the Jersey wall, if you will, right? And then they cut all the chunks of concrete and pulled them all off, and then they had the guys up there cleaning the I-beams. Remember that? And we were like, why in the world are they cleaning? And so now they're removing the I-beams, and I mean, I think it's 8 spans on the western side that are devoid of steel now. Yep. Wow. And 4 or 5 on the eastern or northern section. So I mean, it's moving pretty. So they've got one of these, and I forget what this type of crane is, but this is the one that like it looks like this, and then you know, at the end of the day, if they want to, they like in urban environments when it's windy, they take the thing and they lay it down in the street.
Sure.
Right. But you can see they have this like spreader truss here, which I think we've had pictures of before, but they lift the beams off, and I mean, it's so dynamic out there. There's so much going on. I wanted to get some photos in, and then the cranes in the foreground aren't even related to that. They're related to a story that we've been wanting to cover for probably 6 weeks. That is at the foot of the Cox Creek DMCF. So they're working on the Colgate Creek dredging between Dundalk Marine Terminal and Seagirt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
And a coal pier, all in the same picture.
There you go.
Yep. So there's the power plant, then the DMCF, then, you know, the park, and then the bridge.
Three things going on at once.
Yep. Oh yeah, and there's the northern side with the same type crane. You can see 2 spans don't have any more beams, and it's up to 4 or 5 now.
Wow.
I think you know, as expected, you know, they had to kind of develop a process, and once they nailed that down, then they're applying the process on the other side, on the eastern or northern side, and it's just things are moving pretty fast out there.
I know that MDTA had put out an announcement saying that the road loop that goes underneath the bridge is going to have intermittent stop periods, so that they could pull the pull the steel beams down, you know, onto land.
And that was like the day right before they lifted that first beam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see how fast they're moving out there. And then I find this interesting because remember when we first had that PDF on, that PDF that was all redlined
Yes. Mm-hmm.
with how they were going to take down the bridge, and then we were cautioned by our engineer friend that, well, that's not exactly how they're doesn't mean it's a proposal for a permit. They have to come up with a way. They have to have a plan, and they have to have diagrams. Now, it might not happen that way, but I mean, it would be cool, and I wish I was prepared. I mean, gee, I say that every week. That if we had the little diagram right up next to the picture, it would look almost exactly like it. Do you remember
Sure.
that?
Yeah.
So, and it is interesting because people are saying, well, why didn't you just blow them up? Well, it creates a heck of a mess. And then supposedly, some industry folks were saying that on the W Nice Bridge, they did use some explosives, and it took like 2 years to get through the permitting.
Oh, wow.
Right? I guess just because it's explosives. So these things, I'm trying to think of. It's like a day to get like halfway down that support column.
Wow.
I think that's about accurate, right? So I mean, they're just steady hammering, and you know, for hours, and you'd be surprised how much that thing can chew up in a day. And I think this might be another column. So that's like, and this is interesting too because you know the bridge ran on top of the steel was on top of that column, right?
Mhm.
And then on
Right.
top of that is, you know, a little bit of a Jersey wall, and so that red, black, and white building is what was it? Is it? I might get this wrong. It's a hall in College Notre Dame of Maryland,
Mm.
and
Okay.
then across the street is the cathedral
Mm-hmm.
of Mary Our Queen, right? And so it's kind of interesting that you could barely see those things because the steel was
Oh.
kind of in front of them, right? And so now you're seeing, you know, some of these landmarks up on the hill further up in Baltimore, like
That is
some
interesting.
12 miles away that you, well, not that the camera had been there since 1978, but you know, it
Still,
is
you got,
interesting to be able to see things you haven't been able to see in a couple of
yeah.
years. And then here you can see where they've got, you know, that one leg and that whole top is gone.
Sure.
And they're working on the other leg.
Other side. Yeah. I see
And
that.
then what we think is going to happen is they're going to, you know, just take these bigger pieces of equipment, these extended reach, and just go to the tops of the next one, and then go to the tops of the next one, and use smaller equipment to bring down the other half. That's what we think is going to happen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I thought this was kind of cool. So if you look really carefully below, right there, you can see them lowering a beam off the northern side here as a ship is coming in to fill up with coal. Kind of a neat action shot. And then there's a row. That's not a building on the left. That's a Grimaldi Lines
Right here.
Conroe. Right. Yeah. At Dundalk Marine Terminal.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Lot going in that shot.
Yeah. All right. So definitely moving forward.
Right. Yeah. So just, I wanted to highlight that there's, several spans on the northern south side where the steel is gone. And, they've got a couple of cranes out there. They're moving back and forth between the two different locations where, the main pillars will be for the new bridge where they're driving test piles in. But then on this Wednesday, the MDTA and Keybridge Rebuild put out that graphic that said the design is completed, which I was like, wow, that is, I mean, talk about bearing the lead. I mean, that is huge news. I would love to have, would love to see how fast we can get Jim on to talk about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
because remember we were talking about like December, January for them to get that completed.
right.
And I would imagine, you know, a big organization like this, I mean, I would imagine completed means completed, you know?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's an incredible, that's an incredible accomplishment to get that done.
Well, I think it's important to explain, the information that they're putting out. Yes, you're within 18 months, you designed a bridge, you got all of the environmental, reports completed, and you've started the construction process. That was part of the reason why they chose to go into this progressive design model for implementation to allow them to be able to get started.
Right.
And so it typically takes a lot longer. And so I think that this needs to be understood, that, the magnitude of the project and how quickly it came together.
Yeah. Because look how long it's taken just to pick out. It's been 9 years they've been studying the Bay Bridge.
Correct.
9 years, Kipp. Just talking about, where might it go if it wasn't going to go in the same place? Where would the options be? All the different discussions and open meetings, for neighborhoods and it's just an extremely long process. And meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of internet jokesters like, why isn't it built yet?
Right.
Well, I mean, really, when you think about it, to get all this done in 18 months from nothing.
Right.
From nothing. Nobody had a plan. Nobody had a bid. Nobody was thinking about it for 5 years. It wasn't, on Congress's desk for 5 years, waiting for appropriations.
Right.
People weren't thinking about it. They weren't preparing for it. It wasn't in anybody's thoughts whatsoever. And, as an emergency from nothing, you're able to accomplish this in 18 months. I'm going to go out on a limb and say folks really should be appreciative of that.
I am. It's
because what they're thinking about, they're not thinking about all the stuff that happens before the first truck shows up and starts digging holes and starts showing up with steel and concrete, right?
Correct.
They're not thinking about all that stuff that happens for years before the first shovel goes in the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's been in the news quite a bit this week. Not only about there are some new cost estimates and opening dates, as well as the NTSB report on the ship. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Good.
But I got some points that I want to make sure that everybody understands. The original estimate for this thing, when the bridge came down and they came up with a pretty quick design and said it's going to cost about 1.7 billion to 1.9 billion to build this thing. Mm-hmm. And the original opening date was late 2028. And we had some kind of discussions about, that's pretty aggressive. But that is a number that they came up with the limited amount of information, with no pre-planning whatsoever. Mm-hmm. We were not trying to go replace this thing before it came down, or at least not within the short term. And so they've come out with an estimate of 4.3 billion to 5.2 billion. And now they're saying late 2030 for it to open up.
Right.
So, you know,
I
I'm
kind
not
of was surprised about. I mean, I guess I expected the date to slip. I mean, geez, the end of 28 seemed awfully encouraging, right?
Sure.
And almost impossible. Not that I know a squat about bridge building. You know what I know? It's
Right.
got steel and it's got concrete. That's about all
Right.
I
Exactly.
know.
But
The number, the cost increase, I guess I was a little surprised about that.
all right, so let's talk about this.
Okay, let's do it.
There are going to be reasons why things have various costs. Part of what they've discussed is that there have been some material cost increases. If you look at current economic times and current pricing, things are pretty expensive right this minute, and we have quite a number of fluctuations because of the socioeconomic policies that are currently in place right this minute. There's quite a bit of fluctuation and challenges within the market. So we're going to have cost overruns and things because of that. Now you might say, okay, well, all right, well, we got extra tariffs. And so right before we got on, I went and did a quick research to say that this bridge is going to be built with all U.S. steel. It's not going to be any Chinese steel that's in this bridge.
Right.
So if you look at the price of steel in the U.S. compared to China, right now it's about 2 to 1. For every dollar that you spend in Chinese steel, you're paying $2 here in the U.S.
Wow.
It's also different quality.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I don't know that much about bridge building, but I think there's quite a bit of steel involved.
Correct. And so that's going to make the bridge cost more. Now, this thing has gone through quite a number of bridge design changes, even in this 18 months, to get us to this completed design. We know that the bridge has shifted however many 100 feet to the south. Yep.
You know what I wasn't thinking about? I wasn't even thinking about design costs. Okay. So you had a bridge that was straight down the center of where the old one was. And then remember, they found some subterranean stuff that they wanted to avoid. Moved the bridge over 260 feet. Basically, we were told the suspension part was going to be, still straight, right? They were just moving it over here and curving the ends to meet. So how many weeks or how many man hours does it take when you've got something 50% designed to move it 260 feet, and you're moving probably every piling in the entire thing and resizing every piece of steel, right?
Correct.
So,
the bridge is also going to be higher than the old bridge,
but it was always planned to be 230.
Understood.
Oh, but that's right. Well, they have spread it.
They have spread it and made it wider, and in order to keep the integrity of that wideness, so they now have two towers with cables. Correct.
Yeah, become taller. That's true.
So all of these things equate to more materials and more material costs. Okay, and kind of related to the NTSB report, they have made recommendations for increased design of the pier protection system. And you can look at the different models of this, of the designs, and you can see the changes over time just with the pier protection systems. Right. And that's going to cost more money. So
I think there's, is it the protection system or is it so I'm not talking about what you can see. I'm talking about what you can't see, right? Because
correct.
Remember, there's a subterranean mound of riprap that's going to be around these main pillars. And I think
Yes.
they said that's like as big as a football field.
Yes. That's
So that's a lot of rock, Kipp.
that. Yeah. So I mean, let's.
People aren't giving away rocks that big.
MDTA cited a figure from the Federal Highway Administration that said highway costs have risen approximately 72% over the past 5 years.
Wow.
Which
Talk
is
about eating up a budget. If you had,
Yeah.
whatever, you have your appropriations for interstate improvements all across the country, and all of a sudden, you're buying a lot less improvements with that same money.
And so transactions like that will create turbulence that affects bond markets and drives up the bid pricing for large scale infrastructure projects. So this stuff is going to happen. It's not conspiracy. It's not, hey, we're really trying to steal money from the bridge. It's not any of those things. I get that people are concerned about the funding, and that
Right.
people are probably also charged politically about those certain situations. But in this case, there are some tangible construction costs that have to be realized. And quite honestly, I think I wouldn't mind driving over a bridge that costs a little bit more with all the extra safety features if I'm going to have to be driving over it every day.
There you go.
Just saying. All right. Another thing related to this, there's still a significant amount of comments about who's going to pay for it. All right. So the American Relief Act, which was the budget that was passed back last December that allowed for the funding to take place for this bridge, authorized $8 billion of federal emergency relief funding to cover all of the costs. So what this means is the federal government is footing the full bill. It is paid for. We have figured it out. We know where the money is coming from, and the bridge is going to get built within that $8 billion budget. Now, it's not coming from us.
Just take a snippet of that and
yeah, I know, right?
It's figured out. We know it's
all right. Now,
and just pepper it on the internet everywhere.
Correct. Now, the federal government is already recouped. The federal government has settled with the ship owner and the ship, the ship operator. But that's only about $100 million.
Yeah.
The state of Maryland has also gone after both of those entities for the full amount. Maryland is pursuing this lawsuit with the owners and the managers of the Dali in order to recoup all of those funds. And that's what the purpose is here. So the federal government's footing the bill up front, and Maryland is going through the litigation process, and they will be reimbursing the federal government.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that everybody understands, look, the bridge is going to get built. It is a major artery for the East Coast in the U.S. The federal government is committed to go and pay for it up front, and the state of Maryland has committed to reimburse the federal government for that based on the lawsuits and that
money
process.
they're committed to reimburse the federal government for whatever money they might get. In other words, they're not on the hook for $5 billion if they get none.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. So we're not paying for this thing. But it's been figured out. So everybody, I get it. They allocated $8 billion ahead of time.
Right.
I understand that the initial cost came in, about just under $2 billion.
Right.
And now the price is about double that, but it's still in line with everything that everything that was planned out. Now, the NTSB met this week and they reported out their findings in Washington, D.C. Our friend Sal on his podcast, What's Going On in Shipping, he was very detailed and gave a layman's terms a summary of the full NTSB report. I don't know if anybody else listened to the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing in the background.
Yeah.
It was pretty fascinating. A lot of the tidbits that came out of it. Here's what they said about the findings and the probable cause. The blackout. Everybody's familiar with the power going off. The blackout was caused by a single loose signal wire connection to the terminal block. And so inside the electrical housing, there was one cable that did not have a full seating. The problem with this loose signal wire was that there was a label, a label banding that goes on the outside that labels that cable and its function. Number 3 cable needs to go into number 3 hole.
Right.
But the problem with this one was that the plastic banding on it was loose and it prevented that cable to be seated properly into the terminal block. And so on the surface, when you looked at it with the naked eye, it looked just like every other cable in the terminal block. But in essence, what had happened was the seating had slid down and it just prevented that cable to have a hard connection, which created the low voltage short, which caused the whole ship to lose power.
Wire. That's crazy. I know it's true. It's just wow.
The other component of this is that the ship was utilizing a flushing pump as a fuel service pump. Now, a fuel service pump, from what I understand, pushes the various kinds of fuel through the engine system. And these ships can use multiple kinds of fuel depending on what the ship makeup, and in some cases you have to use certain fuels in certain ports based on environmental regulations. So they have to sometimes change that fuel back and forth. And what should have been hooked up was a fuel service pump. Instead, they were using a flushing pump. Now, a flushing pump flushes the system out, from what I understand. It's, you got a certain kind of fuel in there, you need to push it out. It's not designed to be used as a fuel service pump, but in this particular situation, they were. And so the problem was when the flushing pump, when the ship lost power,
right?
Okay, the flushing pump did not automatically turn back on when the power came on and had to be manually turned back on. If they were using the fuel service pump, it would have automatically kicked back on because the function of that pump allows for that to happen. And this pump was two decks below where everybody was at. There wasn't enough time to be able to run down and cut the power back on to the pump, which caused the second power outage. So there's a whole bunch of things that are taking place that added to the situation.
Yeah, like a lot of disasters, it's not just one thing that happens. It's a series of events that leads to some catastrophic failure.
Right. The NTSB also stated that the bridge owner, which is the Maryland Transportation Authority, had not conducted a vulnerability study, despite guidance that should have, which meant that the risk of collapse from a vessel strike wasn't adequately mitigated. So they were told, hey, we really need to do this assessment study, and it hadn't been completed. So there's a whole bunch of things that are going on. You had some other news around this.
Right. They also said that it was revealed that the officials from Maryland were part of the committee that developed the guidance in 1991 and updated the guidelines in 2009. So while Maryland had been in compliance with bridge inspections, the NTSB spokesman, for lack of a better term, I don't know what her title was, the blonde lady that you see on the video that she spoke the first day. right after it happened. Pointed out the inspections do not look at the probability of a collapse from a vessel strike.
Correct.
And so here you are, this state that took part in drafting some of these regulations, and then you aren't one of the people that go and apply them. Just kind of doesn't make sense. So Fox 45 sent questions to the governor's office and MDTA asking why the agency failed to perform the vulnerability study on the Key Bridge and why it took so long to conduct the study on the Bay Bridge, especially since leaders from Maryland helped set the guidance. In response, MDTA sent a statement which said in part, the MDTA maintains that the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and the tragic loss of life were sole fault of the Dali and the gross negligence of its owners and operators. Just interesting that so I'm not a big analysis guy. I'm not a big documents guy. But what they were saying here is if you had done this analysis, then you would have had some concrete data about how vulnerable this bridge was, instead of just saying, well, I don't think it'll happen, or, well, it's never happened before, or, instead of surmising what the risk would be, there's actually formulas in how you calculate this. And that had they done the analysis, then maybe they would have, I think the number was 30 times the standard.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was
something like that. Yeah,
big multiple number.
Yeah,
How much more riskier it was than the standard.
Sure.
And then maybe if they saw that big number, then maybe they would have been more motivated to, I don't know, put extra protections.
Yeah. I hope this isn't the case, but there is a cost associated with putting in the extra protection. I'm sometimes I'm not saying this was the case, but sometimes investments aren't made because of the cost associated with doing it with the older infrastructure. I don't know. I mean, there could be any number of reasons. But the NTSB said that, in summary, the probable cause was that they determined that the contact of the Dali with the Key Bridge was caused by the vessel's loss of electrical power due to a loose signal wire connection resulting from improper installation of the wire label banding, which led to the vessel's loss of propulsion and steering when close to the bridge. And the contributing to the bridge collapse and the loss of life were the lack of countermeasures for the bridge's vulnerability to vessel strikes and the absence of effective and immediate communication to evacuate the highway workers on the bridge. So what was interesting about that was that they, while making that statement, they did state that the communication amongst the pilots, the vessel operators, the MDTA was very effective, and that because of what they did and how quickly they reacted, it saved many more lives. We can get into that here in just a second.
Yeah.
Safety recommendations. Now, this I found very interesting because the NTSB, I think they basically gave everybody here has got a recommendation for improvement. The vessel operator was to ensure that, which is the Synergy Marine Group, to implement infrared thermal imaging for preventive maintenance of electrical components. So what they're saying is that what they're suggesting is if you use infrared technology, you should be able to find these cables if they are not making the contact that they're supposed to.
Right. And so if I could just stop for just a second.
Yeah, sure.
So I some of you know I'm a pinball guy. I'm an arcade guy. Okay. And so in the 90s, the biggest pinball machine manufacturer in the world had a reoccurring problem on connectors on some of their boards. Okay. And so, you've got this plastic housing that has wires that come out of the back. The wires go into the housing and they're crimped on a metal crimp. That metal crimp is in the housing and rides up on a pin, right? And pushes against the pin and creates an electrical contact. Okay. So when the spring of the force starts to let go, there's a little bit of space in there. And so, right. And so what happens when you've got electrical current and it's trying to get from one metal thing to another? It starts arcing. That arcing creates heat, which is, you don't have a good connection. That creates heat, which is where the infrared comes in.
There you go.
Kind of wanted to demonstrate it a little bit.
Okay. They also recommended that they ensure proper fuel oil service pump configurations and that the high voltage breaker control systems were set to automatic rather than manual. That was another finding that they talked about.
Yeah.
They went after the vessel builder Hyundai Heavy Industries to incorporate proper wire label banding procedures. They went after the Banding Classification Society to have them share the lesson about wire label banding and encourage infrared inspection adoption. They went after the bridge and highway authorities and the standard bodies to revise standards and guidance for bridges over navigable waterways to include a motorist warning system. Now, this was interesting. They are suggesting that you basically put a gate and a light at foot of each side of the bridge, and it comes down, and that there's an automatic warning system that goes off that says stop. There's a potential of a ship coming through that's lost control. Now, I don't know how that would be designed, but it's kind of an interesting concept.
Right.
Hazard sensors, vessel strike vulnerability assessments, and other worker safety protocols. And they went after the U.S. Coast Guard for revising voyage data recorder standards because there was a lengthy discussion about what they could and could not pick up on the ship black box. You know how planes have the black box? Well, ships have them also, but in this particular situation,
near as regulated as
correct
to the data that they record.
Yes,
as on a passenger plane.
You're correct, and that was part of the concern. Was they were hoping to get information that wasn't there, just because it wasn't recorded. And then to improve processes for engine room to bridge communications and multiple microphone channels, related to that. So that was all very interesting. That they basically said everybody's got something here that they should have been doing in the whole process.
Yeah, they little Johnny sitting in the back corner. Don't think you.
Right? Yeah. Like everybody's getting. Yeah. It reminds me of Boy Scout summer camp one year, and I was in my cabin with my buddy and two other guys in the troop.
Yeah,
and the other two stayed up late all night and kept the leaders awake. Well, they woke us up, all of us up at 5:30 in the morning. It didn't matter who was doing it or not. We were all doing calisthenics and to wake up. So everybody gets the punishment here. Yeah. My dad will appreciate that story. He had us running around that lake, and basically we had to run until he was tired, and he had just woken up. All right, so
and I'm sure he found a little bit more energy than he would have.
Yes, very very much so, very much so. There's a couple other nuggets that came out of the NTSB meeting.
So the ship had just completed its 6 months inspection 3 days before the incident. So a ship is required to complete a 6-month basic inspection and a 30-month detailed involved inspection. The 6-month inspection pass does not include the electrical switch panel. And we already talked about the recommendations for infrared inspection. So, which means if there's a recommendation, then they're not doing it. which means it wouldn't have happened anyway.
Sure.
So that is interesting because you think about, oh, well, it just went it just underwent this inspection. How could it possibly still have this problem?
Right.
And there's your answer. And this one is a big one, and I know some of these folks, so this is really, really cool thing. Pilot protocol. Original policy is for a pilot to call the Coast Guard first.
This policy changed 23 days before the incident, and it changed to that the pilots were supposed to call the Coast Guard and notify them of a potential issue, and then the Coast Guard would go through a particular process and protocol.
Okay.
And in this particular situation, the pilot did not follow the new protocol. He called his dispatcher first and said for them to call MDTA to close the bridge down before they called the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And the NTSB said that made a clear statement to say that this break in protocol saved more lives because they were able to close the bridge quicker.
Wow.
And so they actually went through a scientific explanation and showed timestamps to say at this point this happened, at this point this telephone call was made, and at this point here are the cameras on the MDTA officer vehicles that showed the timestamps of when the last truck was going across the bridge, or was about to go across the bridge, and they could see on the vehicle camera where the ship was at, and they know that if they had called after the fact, if they had called the Coast Guard, they would not have survived.
Wow.
And so it was the quick thinking of the pilot of executing everything within a 40-second time frame that saved many more lives. Now, I'm not in no way, shape, or form am I trying to. I wish that there was none.
Right.
But the fact that he had the forethought to try to call and bypass a protocol that had just been changed, by doing that, he saved many more lives.
Wow. Oh, that's
really tough because you're supposed to be following a process for a particular reason. But
now, do you remember when those audio tapes first came out? And Sal had a whole podcast on it.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that. I remember hearing them calling the dispatcher. I remember hearing that.
Yeah. So the gentleman with the NTSB also confirmed that that they did board a sister ship, and we talked about this
because we had seen some vehicles and we had heard that we thought some agencies were like at Seagirt. We really didn't know what happened, but we suspected. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So they actually did board a sister ship, and in the NTSB broadcast, they had mentioned that it was one of the sister ships, but they mentioned it was at a different port other than the port of Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
And so I found that kind of interesting, knowing that we knew that there was also it being here. So I don't know if it was a different agencies that were going on the sister ship here, but they did board a sister ship so that they could inspect the fuel pump and the electrical system. And in that sister ship, none of those issues existed. So they were looking for some duplication in the errors, the problems, but it didn't seem like that was the case.
Interesting.
So I thought all of that was kind of interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very. There's a lot of really good nuggets in there, especially the pilot protocol thing, man.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to that, and there's a trainee on board, and when you hear their voices in that moment, what they're thinking, what they're going through, imagine you're responsible and basically driving this thing and how you would feel when you can see what's coming and then it happens. And, so maybe we should listen to that one day on the podcast.
Okay. So that's a lot of bridge information and news that's come out this week. There was
but really big important things that we wanted to cover. I think obviously, there's a lot of day to day of the port that we love to cover, that folks don't know about, right? That doesn't make the news, that never makes the light of day on normal Facebook channels or whatever. But I thought maybe we'd push some of that aside and get as much of this in as possible.
Sure.
To get these details out to folks.
There was one other event that happened this week. Tradepoint Atlantic hosted their bi-yearly open house on Facebook Live on the 13th. Was it a week ago? Is that right? Yeah. Has it been that long?
I think so. And I mean, I normally like to get to attend those, and I like to put some good questions in there. And
well, I did ask.
I just couldn't do it this time.
Yeah, I did ask a question. So most of the discussion was on updates around the Sparrows Point container terminal.
Right.
What I found interesting is that it will be the only privately owned and operated container terminal in the U.S. So most of them have public-private partnersps, which means, for instance, let's look at Seagert Marine Terminal.
Right, it's owned by
state
of
Maryland. Yep, but state of Maryland owns the property.
Right, but they have a private company. So public-private, the private company runs it. Right, they hire a private company to run it,
and they lease the property, and and so most of them are like that. But in this case, Tradepoint Atlantic is going to be privately owned with their joint venture with MSC.
Right.
Once container terminal is operational, and with the rest of the tenants occupying the space at Tradepoint Atlantic, the employment will be approximately 25,000 people on the property total.
Wow.
Now,
I think it's approaching 20 now, isn't it?
It's about 16,000, I think was what it's pretty close to that. Now, in comparison, the steel mill at the height of its employment was at 30,000 people. So
interesting.
Tradepoint Atlantic. Aaron was saying they were initially hoping for about 10 to 12,000 people employed on the property when they first started. So this concept, they're blown away that they're able to bring in that much employment to the area. This thing's going to be hopping just about like it was when the steel mill was here.
Yeah. That's interesting.
The question that I did ask was, will the Sparrows Point Container Terminal be serviced by both truck and double stack rail? And so all of the investments that have been made with CSX and the Howard Street Tunnel and double stacking coming out of Seagert, it's also going to directly benefit Tradepoint Atlantic. And so we're going to have double stack coming out of both facilities. That's pretty cool.
And then, so remember my detailed question, and we've got another 3 years to get this answer, right? Is where are they doing the double stacking? Because if it's going on CSX rail, it goes across that little creek trestle across the Bear Creek.
Oh, yes.
And so I don't know, but I'm still questioning,
Is that
does
bridge?
that trestle have enough room for double stacks?
All right.
And if it doesn't, then how are they going to, I think they'd be challenged to find room to kind of transload and stack
Yeah.
but I would imagine, with the volume coming out of there, I can't imagine that they wouldn't do it by rail.
Wouldn't have something, sure.
Right. And they can obviously go out of there on Norfolk Southern too and go up the Amtrak line.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd be interesting to see what happens because
definitely.
I'm in, railroad groups on Facebook, and there are people who, oh my God, they know so much stuff. They know so, and every once in a while I'll pop in because I don't spend a whole lot of time on there, and I'll ask a question, and they're kind of like, "How do you not know this stuff?" And I'm like, I only pop in like I'm fascinated, but I can only pop in and dedicate a few minutes of time a week, and so I don't have time to memorize all the train stuff like I have all the ship stuff memorized. I don't have room for both. But it's I'm sure all those folks, once all that starts happening, oh, here comes the first container, train out of Tradepoint, from the new terminal. I'm sure, in 2028 I'll be forwarding that post along, and we'll be figuring out.
You'll be standing on Bear Creek Bridge watching it to see, is it going to make it? Is it going to make it? It's the same thing I do coming through the tunnel every morning in afternoon when there's a truck, and I'm going, is it going to make it? Is it going to hit? Also,
don't they?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Also, the Sparrows Point Container Terminal, once it's online and operating, it will move the Port of Baltimore in container operations from 6th on the East Coast to 3rd on the East Coast. So that'd be pretty cool to.
Yeah, because we're going to go from being able to service 5 to 3 ships at once to 5 at once. And so this terminal, Sparrows Point Container Terminal, is set up to host 2 of the biggest ships that already come to Baltimore at a time. So, so somebody in the sales force, I wonder when they start working. Right? Because if you're having a brand new MSC terminal, I would imagine that all the MSC ships are going to go to the MSC terminal, which is going to provide a lot more room at Seagirt.
That's correct. Yes.
So some sales guys got some work to do.
That's right.
To do some backfilling, but he's got 3 years to figure it out.
Related to Tradepoint Atlantic, moving on to our current events. Oh man, it's getting on to be holiday season here.
Look at that.
The Tradepoint Atlantic annual Bethlehem Steel Star Lighting will take place on Tuesday, December the 2nd, from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. at 6500 Tradepoint Avenue. And Kristen on the call, she said to make sure that you bundle up and celebrate this beloved holiday tradition at Sparrows Point as we light the iconic Bethlehem Steel Star. The shining symbol atop the water tower marks the start of the holiday season. All are welcome. Retired Bethlehem steel workers, their families, neighbors, and community members warm up in our heated tent with a cup of hot chocolate, enjoy festive treats, and keep an eye out for some special holiday characters. I think there may be a Santa Claus on a fire truck possibly, and some hot chocolate and
nice
some singing.
He's not throwing hot chocolate at the kids.
No. No. So it's cool to see the star get lit up in their ceremony, and so if you want a nice little holiday festive opportunity, that's a good event to go to. And I'm
Right.
glad they're
If I,
keeping
if
that
I could
tradition
do the
going.
get off my lawn thing for just a moment, and then I can't tell you how many times I say, "Well, it's just not the same. It's not on the old furnace."
I get it.
Can you appreciate anything? They're trying to keep a tradition alive, and you're finding a way to complain about it. Just stop.
Sometimes traditions adapt and change, and that's okay. Just remember the good times from the past. It's all right.
There you go.
There you go.
Our
buddy Josh.
No, Mr. Positive.
Yeah, I'm trying to be. How about that? Our buddy Josh has got his fun run coming up.
Yep.
So the Baltimore International Seafarers Center has their St. Nicholas Fun Run. You can drop in and do your 5K around Fort McHenry now that it's back open. And or you could do your virtual run, get your 5K elsewhere. Make sure that you visit their website so that you can get registered and participate in that.
I do like the creative picture. I mean, they moved Domino to the other side of the harbor and put 2 container ships where the Constellation is.
Oh, that's funny. I see that now. Yeah,
it's cool though.
Yeah, it is cool. And the tugs,
creative.
The little tiny tugs. That's pretty cool.
And I mean, even the tug is like a traditional, like, color. You know?
Yeah.
The black hull, like the beige.
Well, we'll have to ask him who his artist is.
The same people that did the Goofy City Fair cartoons and the in the newspaper. Remember that?
All right. In our Port of Baltimore history, November the 18th, this year, history converges on a once-in-a-generation moment. We mark the 50 years since the vision that launched this enduring legacy. We honor 40 years since the loss of the original Pride of Baltimore. And celebrate the restoration and rededication of the Pride Memorial at Rash Field. And all of these moments culminate in the celebration of America's 250th anniversary. So there's a big celebration coming up this summer. We'll, as we get closer to it, we'll get into it. So throughout the year, we will highlight seminal moments of our history and share stories for our archives to showcase this incredible legacy. This is a chance to honor independence, celebrate Maryland's maritime innovation, ensure Pride of Baltimore continues to inspire future generations. And so the Pride of Baltimore posted these 2 pictures, and I put them side by side, 40 years apart.
Very cool. And so you see in the newer picture on the right, look who's behind the Pride.
I see that. Is that the Eagle?
That's the Coast Guard Eagle.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
And that's the pictures don't line up perfectly, but that's the same landmass on the right.
Correct, yes. Just a little bit different angle.
Allied Chemical, right? They made the chromium for chrome bumpers.
I think you're correct.
I think, right? And then what's like the EPA cement cap of like, don't dig here.
Right. Yeah.
Ever.
Yep.
Pretty cool picture.
And that's all I got for tonight.
All right. Yep. So we are Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. We have a website full of information, links to the live stream camera, the podcast, all kinds of swag that would be good for Christmas gifts. So go ahead and get your orders in now. I think the shipping it takes at least a week. So if you're thinking about any of that stuff on the website, it's a great time for, some hoodies. I think we've got regular pullover hoodies, zip up hoodies, all kind of t-shirt, glassware, all kind of stuff like that. All different kinds of hats. We've got trucker caps. We've got pastel hats. All kinds of stuff like that. You can just go onto the website, go to the link, order whatever you want, comes right to your house.
Guess what everybody's getting for Christmas?
Good answer. And just remember, that live stream camera link, you can watch them as they go through this process with the key bridge, right? So they're disassembling the old one and doing test pile driving for the new one at the same time. It's awfully dynamic. There's a lot going on out there. And as much as we love to have you listen here, you can watch for yourself. You don't have to wait for us to tell you what's going on. So ship schedules, port maps, even local maritime industry uses our port maps on our website, which is a really cool thing. We're all over social media, Twix, shout out Amy Lawrence, Instagram, Reddit, Threads. So we try to get the podcast out there to just about everywhere. And
if you want to listen to us in the audio version as you go through the tunnel like me every morning, Apple Podcast and Spotify, and there's a number of other audio platforms that we're on now. So make sure that you listen.
That we had no clue we were on. That we found.
Yeah, no clue.
How do we get there? I have no idea. Must be supply and demand. We hit the big time, Kipp. We're in places we didn't know we wanted to be.
I know, right? Like, what happened there? What? Okay, sure, why not? Counts as metrics.
Yep.
All right, we've got Thanksgiving week coming up. I think
a safe bet we'll be skipping that one.
Yeah, so we'll come back after Thanksgiving. So
sounds good.
All right.
Yep.
Ready to count it off?
Yep. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
Happy ship watching. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great week.